Okay, third day of trading, and I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I made some mistakes to stay. Mostly it was in the emotional department, and nearly made some big. I did make some big mistakes. I recovered tolerably well, but not proud of the fact that I didn't keep that emotion in check and do the right thing when it counted. But anyway, let's talk about what happened. All right, so it is uptrending, as you can see. We've had a peak over here, and it went down overnight quite a bit. Oh, actually down yesterday and tried to recover, but it hasn't really made a recovery overnight yet. The dark blue line is, or excuse me, the light blue band is the overnight session. All right, so the 1 hour chart here nears that peak, and it's been dropping for the last couple days, and so I'm looking for a possible bounce point, and we're looking at one real close here at the 180-day SMA, which is also, there's two SMAs there on the 1 hour chart and the 4 hour chart, so that's pretty strong bouncing point. With this information on the screen, I don't look at the volume profile, as it doesn't give me a whole lot. The other thing that I do weigh in a little bit on, a little bit more, is the MACD here, and it looks like it's turning down. Obviously losing momentum, that's not unexpected. Okay, 15-minute chart, we're seeing a big red candle, and still hasn't really changed my opinion about what's going on here. The 1 hour chart I jumped to just so I could set up the volume profile here, and that's showing the range that it traded here between the red and the green lines, and I wrote them down as previous day's value area low and previous day's value area high. And the POC is way up there, which I thought was kind of interesting because with the yesterday and overnight session, almost up to current, it looks like the POC is quite a bit lower than it was before. So again, not terribly surprising. It is downtrending, so that's what we would like to see or expect to see. All right, so this is actually the volume profile that I would probably give more weight to, and we can see here's that area where I think it's probably going to get to, and we can see that it's trading right at the POC here. I didn't get started until just after opening bell, and at opening bell it went dropping down quite a bit, and then it started to bounce up right to that POC there. And we are really close to the previous day's value area low from yesterday. So that would probably be, and that also matches up with the SMAs as well. So that would probably be a point where it would find a ceiling resistance level if it does go up. All right. And if you look at just the volume since 5 a.m., which I've been kind of doing just because of the size of the candles, it just happens to work out pretty well. It's kind of interesting to see the POC actually just jumped up at this point, and we can see fewer trades down in this area. So it's trying to rise at the moment. You can see the MACD is tipping up, and that's not surprising either. So I wanted to get in a short because it's been downtrending the last couple days, and so going up and then making this turn here, I really thought that would be a good opportunity to get into a short. It didn't even quite hit the SMAs there. So the one thing that I missed on this chart that I probably could have and should have given more weight to was that MACD down here, because it looks like it's turning over here, but it's still very far below the average line. That's not a good sign. Otherwise, I don't know, this trade doesn't seem that bad to me. I've got my stop in at 250, which is a lot, but it's not huge. It's not out of out of the question. And I really think it's going to get down to that point, and I'm not even expecting that much of a move here, not the entire move, just some of it. But it did end up going up, and I raised up my stop because I figured there might be a little bit beyond that. Since it is more long-term uptrending, it might shoot above that a little ways before it started that drop. And I didn't really want to get stopped out. And here we are sitting right at the SMA. And I also was looking at the HVA on the volume profile as well. That's the other thing I was looking at. So sometimes the higher trading area will be enough to make it stop and drop. So that's what I did. And I got stopped out. So the first trade was a $350 loss. And I waited, I did my analyzation, I haven't changed my mind. I happen to know because obviously it was yesterday. It did end up dropping. So I was kind of right about where it was going. It's just, it hadn't quite gotten to that point yet. So I don't know. I'm not sure if I would say that was necessarily a bad trade or not. The problem is that when you start off with that bad of a trade, it messes with your mind. So it was really difficult to try to pull out of that mentality and wanting to make it up, especially when it went shooting up and way, way, way beyond where I thought. So I did make a good call in that I raised up that stop, yes, but I raised it to a good point. I don't have any problems with where I put it. And I did leave it there at that point, even though it was kind of a large amount and kind of painful. So I did leave it. I got stopped out. Otherwise, I would have had all this loss as well, which would have been devastating. All right. So anyway, so the green. So then I went back and kind of like, okay, reanalyzing where is it going now. I drew in the green line at the last peak right here. I figured that would probably act as a resistance level, but I'm going to wait a little more carefully, I think, and see what the candles are going to do before I get in again. The other thing I'm looking at here, as you can see, the bottoms here, they're losing momentum just a little bit. So they're losing that downward momentum. That's a little scary. So I need to definitely want to be cautious. The MACD is still just shooting on up into the sky, so has not made a turn yet. So we were waiting and waiting and waiting. And this little candle right here, I should have waited. Take that back. I should have waited. Honestly, the MACD was just looking like it was going to tip over. I didn't quite grab the screenshot, but it really, really threw me. And I got into a short here because of that red candle there. And again, it was above. I think the MACD looks better here. The RSI is pretty high. However, it did have another big green candle. And because of this great big movement, I should have been extra cautious and probably was not. I need to wait that extra moment before I jump into a trade when it does something that different from what I'm expecting. But I got in here and it went on up, and I'm holding my breath, and I have a really tight stop here, not only because I can't really afford to lose a whole lot more, but because I really don't think if it goes above that point, it's not a good place to be in a short. So I really don't want to be there. So, and I got stopped out. So now I'm at a $512 loss. And in hindsight, because I ended up at a $570 loss, $75 loss for the day, I could have and should have stopped here. 2 bad trades in a row, and it's almost 10 o'clock. I probably should have just stopped here, but it's so hard to do. And I knew that I'd only made 400 the day before. I didn't want to wipe out all of yesterday's profit and a little bit of the days before. I really wanted to try to whittle back. I didn't expect to make any money this day at this point, but I really wanted to whittle back some of those losses a little bit. So this looked honestly like a really good opportunity, and I do not disagree with that. It went up above that, showed signs of it dropping, and I got into a short. The MACD looks good, the RSI looks good, we're way above the POC, we're at a decent resistance level. There's reasons, lots of reasons to think this is going to work out. And since the opening bell, if I only use that data for the POC, you can see the POC is still way down here, and there's hardly any trades up here. So another confirmation that yes, this is a good spot to get into a short. So I put the stop right above, or right at the top of that wick for that last candle there. Do not disagree with that at all. And it did drop. It was awesome. Awesome trade. So when it dropped, just because of my losses, I wanted to be cautious, and so I lowered my stop down a couple ticks below where I had gotten in, just to make sure that I wouldn't lose any money on this trade. So it went up and stopped me out, and I could have gotten out when it started to turn. I really thought it was going to get down farther, at least to here, maybe even to the here, and it still might, but that's kind of unfortunate. In being extra cautious, I would lose out as well on a good trade, but I can't afford to lose out right now either. So at least I called it. That was a boost to the morale, and that was helpful for the emotional state. All right, so went and looked at some information that's going on, what they think is moving the market, and they're talking about the Federal Reserve holding its interest rates. I don't know. Labor market is slowing, and of course there's all the Iran and Israel conflict right now that's looming. So possible that's why it's taken that dip down the past couple days. I don't know. All the things. All right, so I'm watching here, and it looks like it's attempting another rise. I'm watching it very closely. I think it's probably going to hit this line here and stop. So that would be at 60.60. And looks like it did indeed kind of stop right there. I miswrote this. It's not a stop, it's a short. So I got into another short here, and we can see multiple evidences for it to be dropping. So I got in there and have a pretty high stop. This time I put it above that wick by a couple ticks, which is actually at the 1 hour chart's SMA. And this is pretty conservative. I'm not expecting a great big movement there. And it went out and stopped me out. I could not believe it. Actually, no, it didn't stop me out. When it started to head up, I freaked out, lowered my stop just to get out, so I wouldn't be at quite such a big loss, 260. So, I don't know. Let's see if it goes up above that red line, that yellow line. No. Nope, it didn't. So if I had just left that stop alone, let's go back again. If I had just left that stop alone right through here, I think I would have been okay. I put it at 60.25. And let's go look and see. What did it actually do? It does look like it continued up there. Yeah, so it's probably good that I got out, because that's where it happened right there. And it went up quite a bit more. Anyhow, spoiler alert. Okay, so I just got out because of that green candle. That was just too much for me. Okay. And I got in here. I got into a long. And I knew as soon as I placed it that this really was a stupid trade. This was definitely a revenge trade, and I'd placed short orders up to this point. So I finally decided, okay, fine, I think it's going up. I guess I'm just going to have to accept that fact, and I'm going to get into a long right here. which is like the worst place to get in because we're at a resistance level. You know, even if it does go up further, it's probably going to drop and stop me out. So that was really not wise. So I ended up getting out of that with a, you know, it dipped down and it scared me really good. I had lowered my stop, of course, because I'm not thinking clearly. And then when it came back up to where I'd gotten in, I just got out at break even. And it actually said I canceled my stop at that point as well, just briefly. And of course it goes up and I'm back to being devastated again. It's like, good grief, this is just frustrating because it did go up and I would have been fine to wait it out. So anyhow, I put an order in here because it broke that resistance level there. I think I decided this is the time to get into a long after all and wait until it gets up to the POC from the previous day. So I got into a long there, and then I started writing it up, put the exit order in there, and I did not hold out till it went all the way up there. I was trying to be cautious, and I only made 337 on this trade, which is definitely something anyway. And I'm, again, trying to be cautious. Got out as soon as I saw any kind of hesitation there, and did end up going all the way up there. I would have been fine. So I've got a plan of attack. At this point, it's 11:24, and this is how I talked myself into continuing to trade, because I've gotten my emotions back under control now. I've made a good trade that helped a lot, and I really want to get some of that loss whittled back. I really, really do. So I came up with a plan of attack, and my thought here is to get into a long when it drops down. Okay. Alrighty. I left the computer for, looks like 20 minutes or so, came back, and this is what had developed. And I had put in, it was kind of funny, I put in an alert at this POC right here for it to trigger every time it crossed it. And you can see it crossed it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You could definitely see it just was stuck on that area. And that's where a ton of trades were. That's where a lot of consolidation was. So, and it's also stuck on the SMA right through here. So it's holding at that, which is good. Perhaps it will go up even further. The high from yesterday is in sight now. And so I got into a long at this point, thinking I might write it up to that. I zoomed out to kind of get some better perspective. And this is scary. It looks like we've had a great big rise and now it's tipping over. So I'm kind of questioning my trade at this point. We'll see. I raised up my stop to just below that last wick right there. Do not disagree with that. MACD is not in my favor now. So it went up just a little bit, couple ticks above where I'd gotten in, and I lowered my limit order to just get out, and I did. I got out at like a very small profit, and I'm so glad that I did, because I could kind of see reasons for it to start dropping. And here we see a great big red candle, and now it's broken through that SMA. So now this is where I think getting into a short is definitely a possibility. So this is the trade that I made here. Got into a short when I started to see the drop, and my stop order is up here above this last bit, and I think it's going to get down to this point, which would be an awesome trade. It would get back almost all of my losses. The only thing that might be getting in the way is this SMA on the 1 hour chart here. That might be a resistance level. So I placed the trade, and I realized I really have to go. I need to leave. I need to get stuff done. So basically, my stop is at a place where I think it's probably going to be fine, and it will probably wipe out 3 days of profit if that does trigger, and I have to be okay with that. I think the likelihood of it dropping is pretty good, so I just walked away and left it, but couldn't really walk away too much because I came back at about 11:30, right before I walked out the door, and I saw this start to go up right here. Actually, it was this one right here. And I got worried. I was like, oh man, if I have to wait out another rise, that's not good. So I got out at, I think it was like $150 profit. So it was, or maybe even 200, I don't know. Got out of that trade and then I left. What's interesting though, if I hadn't done that, I would have been fine.